And folks, we are back. This is the Law and Crime Network. I'm Michel Bryant. We are going back to the Nantucket courtroom where the Kevin Spacey case continues. Remember, this is effectively a defense motion because they feel there should be access to text messages or the phone the accuser used and had with him on the night of the alleged event. And what happened to the text messages that took place that night? And were they or were they not exculpatory? Remember, the accuser took the stand himself today and then took the fifth. So now we have on the stand the mom. This is Heather Unruh. Well, Heather Unruh huffs off the stand there. She is the mother of the accuser in this case against Kevin Spacey up on Nantucket Island. And the core reason for this get-together today is the defense belief that the prosecution either has or had some cell phone information that might have been exculpatory. With me, a couple of folks who can help break this down. Norman Williams is here, defense attorney. So what you were talking about how there might be other reasons or other places to get the information that the defense seems to want, but it would be in the control of the prosecution, right?
Right. Like Joseph said, that the defense can't subpoena Facebook or Instagram or all those entities, but the government can. And I find it kind of strange that the government didn't get everything, that they didn't subpoena every single outlet that this phone touches. You know, our phones touch everything in the cloud, and the cloud is accessible.
So the question, I guess, Joseph, technically is, if there is something out there, let's assume the phone is gone. Defense can't get a hold of it. What's their remedy? Is this it?
Well, they're asking for a dismissal based upon denial of due process because the phone is missing. Again, the phone went from the complaining witness to the prosecution team, which includes the investigating agency in this case. The family says they never got it back. So therefore, at one point in time, it was in control of the prosecution team. Therefore, because it doesn't exist now and it's not accessible to the defense under, Brady or even Trombetta Youngblood, then they are asking for a dismissal.
Yeah, I mean, effectively, it's a terminating sanction for not playing the game the way you should play the game. Let's take a step back here, Norman. Let me start with you. What this is all about, an 18-year-old in a bar drinking illegally, Spacey allegedly buying him drinks and then getting a little handsy. What issues do you see arising out of both the age of the accuser, his attempt to get alcohol as an underage drinker? How does that all play out here?
I mean, unfortunately, what can happen here is the victim can get blamed for drinking, being an underage drinker, doing something that the average person does. But on the other hand, if I was defending Spacey, I would say to him, look, I can go in there and make this kid out to be a train wreck, but that's exactly who older people target. Train wreck, vulnerable kids.
So you're saying that the accuser might have come across as kind of easy prey for somebody like Kevin Spacey, if you believe the allegations.
Exactly. I mean, alcohol makes a lot of things easier to do.
So, Joseph, what do you think? What do you think about this is not a 12-year-old, 13-year-old, 14-year-old who might make it easier for us to fall into that usual victim as the prey of the predator. It's a little different when they're a little older. What do you think?
I agree. I think that that it's going to come down to a closing argument. On one hand, the defense has to do this because they want to point to the false ID and say, look, this guy doesn't tell the truth. He commits fraud. He commits fraud to get what he wants. If he creates or gets his hands on a false ID to get into a bar, why wouldn't he then accuse a famous celebrity later of doing something inappropriate to get money?
Okay, on that front, I'm glad you said that, because you know what happened 3 days ago? The accuser dismissed his civil suit against Kevin Spacey. Now, tell me, Norman, what impact does that have? The jury would probably not hear about that as part of the process. They might learn about it otherwise. But just on a gut level, what does that tell you when the civil suit is dismissed, criminal matters moving forward?
If it's dismissed without any settlement, that's one thing. But if it's dismissed and no one's talking about the settlement, that's another.
Yeah. And Joseph, we don't know the details of that. All we know that it was, in fact, dismissed. So I think speculation would include it was settled, possibly. And it also helps, I think it helps the prosecution, because then they can't, have a victim or an alleged victim that is pointed to and say, hey, look, he's a money grubber. He's got a civil case going on, and to win that case, all he needs is a conviction in the criminal case. What do you think?
Correct, yes. It might have been dismissed due to a settlement, or it might have been dismissed because a prosecutor is intelligent and said, hey, listen, do you want justice against this guy, or do you want a civil case? Do you want to be questioned because you're trying to grab for money, or do you want to see justice against Mr. Spacey, who did this to you?
Yeah. So for whatever reason it was dismissed, I'm certain it was without prejudice, unless there was some actual cash changing hands, and that might be even more dangerous for the prosecution. So we'll get back into that courtroom. We're watching Nantucket. We're watching Florida with the our favorite defendant, who may or may not take the stand again to clear up some of the things he talked about earlier. And of course, we're keeping an eye on the federal district court here in New York for the latest on the Epstein matter. So stay right where you are. This is the Law and Crime Network. We'll be right back.